All right, now can you hear me?
I can now. I had to click the allow talk button.
Oh, okay.
To make you the moderator, and we're live on the interwebs as well.
All right, now can you hear me?
I can still hear
I
you.
had to click the allow talk button. Oh, okay. That's weird.
Moderator in. Can you hear me now, Jason?
Yeah, I've heard you the whole time.
Okay, cool. Sorry, it was echoing because we are live on the interwebs. So we're on YouTube.
Got it. Cool. Is there a reason why it's not giving me a video?
Yeah, because you're not presenting. So.
Okay. It's very strict.
Well, it's the webinar format, so I think it only allows one person to be on screen at the time, and it's the presenter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you presenter so that you will have the juice to. I'm assuming you want to moderate this evening.
Yeah, I was up for that.
Awesome. Let me just see if I can give you the juice then. So more promote to panelist. Okay, so now can you share your camera?
Yeah, I just got to start the video. There we go.
Nice. Okay, and then are you able to share your screen? Do you have a button to share screen?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. So I think that's all you'll need. If you want to make somebody else a panelist, you'll just have to like hover over their name. They'll be in the attendees column, and then you can either allow them to talk or you can click on the more and then promote them to a panel. Then once they're a panelist, then they can turn on their own camera and share and all that good stuff. So.
Okay. Do we have any? My company, the new company I'm working at, mentioned they have a back-end position open. I was going to mention that. Do we have anything else like that to mention?
I don't know of any openings. So yeah, I mean, I just hired 6 people, so I'm a bit full up at this point. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna mute and hop off, and I'll check out the YouTube stream, just kind of make sure that's hopping. And
okay, real quick, let me make sure I have the slides.
Jason Land needs access to the account. Houston, we have a problem. You have access to the Google Drive for your San Diego JS.org email?
Well, is my access to the San Diego JS org email that was the issue? I found some old slides from 2019.
Okay.
I don't know if we made new slides for our updated situation.
What situation? Are you referring to the global pandemic?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That situation?
Situation.
Let me look and see.
See, wait, here's a 2020 version that I have access to. Weird that the 2019 one came out first. And then we've got Eliza, Anthony, Jason, Nishi, Joanna, Mike, Samantha, and Julie as organizers. And then Todd, Mike, Abby, Austin, Jason for directors.
Board members, but directors is fine.
Yeah, well, sorry. It says board of directors.
Yeah. Cool. So you got a deck then, right?
Yeah. I think I got it.
Sweet. Dan, you've got your hand up. I'm going to give you the juice to talk.
Oh, hey, Simon. And then I think Allison wanted to go first because I believe they're in a different time zone.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hey, that works.
Okay, so Simon is speaking tonight. Who else is speaking tonight?
Cher Allison and Julie.
Okay, so Allison is now able to talk, and I don't see Julie online yet. So
Hello.
Hey, Allison. Nice to meet you.
You too. You guys can't see me yet, right? Just microphone?
Correct.
Cool.
How terrible would it be if like it always showed us and then everyone just is always like just played along? Like that was the culture.
that's some Black Mirror stuff right there. So
They said they didn't want to do any right now because like the world's too depressing. Like the
I can't.
writer-
I think I made it halfway through the first season, and I was just like, "This is like terrible," and I can't watch this because this just makes me
Is this too real? Because you thought the quality was bad.
no, because it's incredibly too real. They're just like, "This is the future," and it's terrible. So I'm done. I can watch maybe a half hour of an episode before I literally just want to cry or vomit in my mouth. Like I can't decide which one is my emotion at the time. So
I watched the heavy metal one recently, and that was my Black Mirror episode for the year.
Mhm.
I can't do it. It's been maybe a year since I looked at it. I'm just like, not right now. I'd be jumping out a window. So it's just
Maybe I need a content warning then, because I'm going to be doing stuff about tracking license plates, but in a privacy-focused way.
yeah. I think you'd be okay. I mean, like, we all know we could get this COVID thing tracked pretty easily since Google and/or Facebook know exactly where we are at every moment of every day. But we can't let the public know that because then they might be scared and we could actually solve problems. But all right, I'm gonna hop off. Let me know if you need anything. I'll be on Slack and I'll be watching the YouTube on the interwebs. So I can.
Yeah, it sounds like it's about 3 or 4 seconds behind.
Yeah, it might lag a little bit more behind, but as long as it stays up, then we know it's working and our little experiment works. So awesome.
All right, thanks for your help.
Yep.
Allison.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one who said you wanted to go first because of time zone issues, correct?
Yeah, I'm in New York.
Okay, yeah. And then how do I pronounce your last name?
Qualia.
Qualia. I've definitely been saying the G, so I'm glad I got.
Most people do. No worries.
So yeah, we just basically we always it's 7:01 now, but let me get on the Slack and make sure no, everyone seems it looks like he's about to paste a new link, and I'm gonna get on the Meetup page in case people are posting like, hey, how do you get in?
There was a Zoom link in the Meetup page. That's what I clicked to get in.
Yeah, that's the updated one. We had an old one, and I always try and get started early so we can iron out those kinks, and that's what happened.
Sure.
So I'm gonna start
I
sharing
got
my
one by
screen.
email, so I think people will have had the email.
I'm gonna share my screen here in a sec. I think it makes people focus on me. Oh, people are just coming in. It doesn't beep the way it used to at me. Oh, that's Jitsi, because I always do things on Jitsi because I can't be arsed to mess around with Zoom. There's already 18 people in here. All right, let me get the slide deck up. All right, for those of you just coming in, we're going to wait about another couple of minutes to give people time to get in. You all see the SDJS slide, right?
Yeah.
Instead of my face? Okay, great. Usually we give people 30 minutes, but since it's virtual, we've cut that down a lot now. So we also might not run as late because of the same reason.
Cool.
We also had to allow time for herding cats, getting people to get out of the venue. So Allison, being in New York, is that a recent move, or are you visiting, or you got trapped there during Corona, or?
No, I'm actually from New York. I grew up right outside of the city, and I've lived in New York City proper for like the past 15 years or so. So I'm born and raised.
You definitely sound it.
Really? Most people say that I have no New York accent at all.
That was, I guess, sarcasm that you needed
Oh.
my face to tell that I was being sarcastic.
I'm very gullible. Sorry.
I'm glad Julie connected you to us. Either way, we were looking to extend our reach now that we're going to be virtual for at least the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm job seeking these days, so I'm hoping to possibly move out to San Diego.
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah, so it's been awesome.
I need to learn how to put hold music on.
Like elevator music.
Yeah. So anyone who's come in, are you working on anything cool recently? You can go ahead and just unmute and chime in. I think you can unmute. Hopefully you can. Let's see, how do I open up the chat?
I think I can unmute. I built a single button keyboard on the weekend that does anything you want to program it to.
So you basically made an Amazon like dash button.
Yeah, with an Arduino and an arcade button and a Starbucks reusable cup.
I imagine that your house looks a lot like a lot of oscillator detector screens or whatever, like oscilloscopes and frayed wires and like the smell of solder everywhere.
Yeah, more the like random things with random wires that got 80% finished and I was like, I know how to finish that. I'm never going to bother now. I finished this one. I was pleased.
Okay, Julie's here. That's good. Can I make them a panelist? I guess not. I'll have to figure that out. Oh, thanks, Miles. Yeah, so I got the little chat window up now too. So if anyone does want to chat and chime in, just raise your hand. Oh, and then there is. I see Julie's hand raised. Then what? So professional. Well, we're going into the it's past almost 7:10, so we're going into the intro slides, and then I'll introduce our speakers for the night, and we'll get on to our first speaker, who is Allison Qualia, coming in all the way from New York. So we want to make sure she meets her bedtime. So welcome to the STJS monthly meetup, hosted by San Diego JS. Glad you can make it. Oh, there we go. I am one of the organizers and board members. I am Jason Land, the only one on here with a mustache. I guess what Mike has is a mustache, but it's not just a mustache. We also have Eliza Carpio, Anthony Valera, Mishi DeWitt, Joanna, who I forgot her last name, Michael Roberts, Samantha Montero, and Julie Knowles. We also have a board of directors, as we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We have Todd Basher, Michael Roberts, Abby, Austin Keel, and myself again, Jason Land. So we have this Zoom room with all these like privileges and features and whatnot, thanks to our hosts, SD Code School. Michael Roberts is like the Lord and Master of that, basically. I don't know his official title, actually. But he's run the curriculum as well as coding up a lot of the learning tools there as well. It's just recently expanded the staff by about 6 folks. So it's doing pretty well. If you're interested in a programming code school type of thing that also features apprenticeship to make sure you get actual real world hands-on learning and not just making a toy project and booting you at the door. San Diego Code School is definitely the place you want to look into. So we also have a few different ways to connect with us. There's a website, sandiegojs.org. We have our Slack invite. This is an auto invite for sandiegojs.herokuapp.com. There's our Twitter at San Diego JS, and our GitHub, where we sometimes publish some open source initiatives. We also have a code of conduct on that website. So just the key thing is to be nice, be professional. Please take a look at it. We go over in detail what we take seriously in terms of people feeling comfortable, no matter who they are, being welcomed, avoiding a prejudice, and being just a warm, inviting community. We want people to feel at home here. We still have a lot of meetups despite the quarantine. So the second Wednesday of the month is our React.js meetup. Third Wednesday is Angular. Third Thursday is Vue. And fourth Wednesday is Fundamental JS, where they focus on the basics of JavaScript. You can check out our website or the meetup profile for us, meetup.com/San Diego JS/events, to see the different sorts of all the different events we have planned. So if you want to show your support, we have a few different ways. You can become a donor on an ongoing basis at patreon.com/SDJS. You can sponsor event. We have a form for that on our website. You can buy some swag from us. We have shirts, a hoodie, and a coffee mug. And this, the last bullet point is outdated. That's from when we were doing IRL meetups. Keep in mind, if your company wants to sponsor either as a donor or sponsoring an event, it is a tax write-off, especially if it's a large sum on patreon.com. So we advertise any of our donators at meetups and on our website. They're, like I said, they're tax deductible, and it helps us do things like pay for special guests and weekend workshops are the two big things we really look forward to with our donations. So no cash, no problem. You can still help us out a huge amount by volunteering to give a talk. It's a really good idea to do that, to come forward and help others learn what you've learned by giving even just a 5-minute lightning talk. This meetup, we do 5 to 10 minutes. You can help contribute to our open source initiatives at our GitHub page. You can follow us and share on our Twitter account whenever we post about our events. And of course, there's just showing up. If no one came, it wouldn't really be that big of a deal. So we're glad that you're here. So tonight, 4 talks. We have Allison Qualia with array.sort, Simon Prickett with Redis Hyperlog logs, Cher Batak with Angular's Google Maps API, and Julie Knowles with your blog on Jamstack. All right, so let me just get this over to Allison. Actually, your mic's already live, right?
I think so. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Let me stop my share. Why don't you try sharing your screen?
I don't know if I have permission.
All right, I am working desperately on this now. I'm hovering over like Miles suggested in the text chat. Allow to talk about this should appear when you hover the cursor over a participant.
I kind of wonder if I have to be a panelist in order to share screen.
So I'm trying to stop being a panelist. Oh, heck, we might have to ping Michael Roberts. He's only 3 seconds behind. He already knows about my my issues here.
Hey, yo. All right, who are we trying to get to be speaker?
Allison, I'm hovering over. I don't even see the thing to step down as the.
She is now a panelist.
And let's get Cher, Simon, and
Sure.
And Julie in there as well. All right, so Allison, you have this. We have your video up now. Are you able to share your screen?
Yes.
All right, why don't you go ahead?
All right, let's do this. And where is this? There we go. Okay, can everyone see this okay?
I can, yeah.
Okay, cool. So hi, my name is Allison. I am new to the tech space. I recently graduated from Flatiron School's software engineering program. And before that, I have 10 years of creative experience in various industries, and my bachelor's was in anthropology from NYU. So new to the space. I had a tech interview recently where I was asked a question at the end where I had to use array.sort, and I wasn't too familiar with the method, and so it tripped me up a bit. So I decided I didn't want to make that mistake again, and I decided to sort of dive into it a bit and put together an explanation to help others who also maybe weren't as familiar with it. So that is what this talk will be. Let's see. Oh my gosh, there we go. Okay, so array.sort in a nutshell, it takes an array and it sorts it in place. Pretty simple. No copy of the array is created as it is with map and so on. So the array itself is altered with the sorted values in place. It can be used with or without a compare function, and when you don't provide one, it's going to automatically sort the values in ascending order. If there are any undefined values, they're going to be sorted automatically to the back of the array. So here we have two simple examples. If you have an array of single-digit integers, you can go ahead and do array.sort with just the empty parentheses, and that will go ahead and sort those numbers for you in ascending. If you have simple strings that are in the same case, so in this example, they're all lowercase, you can call .sort on that as well, and that's going to work. So with this logic, if we had another array of integers, 4, 7, 150,000, etc., this should return logically 1, 3, 4, 7, 9, 400, and so on, right? That would actually be wrong. So instead, this sort would actually return 1, 150,000, 3, 4, 4,000, and so on. So why does this happen? That's because array.sort converts each element in the array to a string when a compare function isn't provided. So even if you have an array of integers, it's going to read those integers as 4, 7, and so on. Since both 1 and 150,000 start with the same character, which means they also share the same Unicode point value, they are going to be sorted next to one another despite the additional numbers. So hence that error. So how do we fix this? You need to use a compare function. If a compare function is supplied, all of the array elements, excluding any undefined, are going to be sorted according to the return value of that function. And one important thing to note is that a compare function must always return the same value when given a specific pair of elements as its two arguments. If those results aren't consistent, then the sort order is undefined and you're not going to get the outcome you're expecting. So to use a compare function with an array of numbers, here is an example to use numbers to sort in ascending order. So you would go ahead and assert an anonymous function within the parentheses of sort right here. The variables A and B are used as stand-ins for each pair of elements in the array that we're going to be comparing. And the return value, which in this case is A minus B, is going to specify how we should compare them. So basically what's happening here is when we call this function, we're asking if the result of each subtraction, that A minus B, is less than 0, greater than 0, or equal to 0. So if A minus B equals a negative number, we know that A is less than B and should be placed before B in the array. If it equals a positive number, we know that A is greater than B and should be placed after it in the array. And if the difference is 0, we know that they are equal values. So by this logic, if we wanted to see it in descending order, we could just switch the B and the A in the return function there, and that will sort them the opposite way. In order to use a compare function with an array of objects, you can sort by a numerical value. It's going to be very similar to what we did before. So you pick which value you'd like to sort your objects by. In this case, we're going to use age, and tack that onto your A and B values. So here we have A.age minus B.age, and now all of the people below are sorted by age. So with this logic, if we decided to sort these people by name instead, we might think that we could do A.name minus B.name. But in fact, that's not going to work. The array of objects remain unchanged because we attempted to sort the strings using subtraction to compare words, which won't exactly work the same. You can't really subtract Billy from Rihanna and hope for an answer of -1, as an example. So to use a compare function with strings, we need to explicitly return a positive integer 1, a negative integer -1 or 0, depending on the comparison between the strings. So you can see here with the people sort, we have A.name greater than B.name explicitly returns -1. If it's less than name, explicitly return -1, else return 0. And that's going to go ahead and sort the people by name in alphabetical order. Now, if you have non-ASCII characters, so if you're working with elements that maybe are accented characters or strings in languages other than English, the previous methods are not going to work. In this case, you need to use locale compare. So to sort in ascending, you would do A.locale compare B to get here from A to R. And if you wanted the opposite way, you would just switch this B to the front here and A in the parentheses. So this was actually the question that I stumbled upon during that tech interview. So this one is sorting by index. So if you find yourself tasked with sorting an array of strings based on the order of the string's appearance in an original string, you could use index of. So in this particular problem, I had an original string, which was here. We had an array of stocks. So we have, Google, Facebook, Tesla, et cetera. And I needed to look for the presence of symbols in the string and return an array of symbols present, if any, and then later sort the symbols in the array by the order in which they appeared in the string. So I went ahead and started a new array, did a for loop to push any of those stocks into the array, which in this case would just come out here if we just did regular array sort. But because we needed to look at the order that they exist in the original string, we need to use this index of. So basically when you're using index of, you're looking at the original string, and taking index of A is going to convert that to a number. It's going to convert that to the index. So in this case, Google is at index 7 in the original string, and Tesla is at index 0 in the original string. So because they're numbers, we're then able to subtract and sort accordingly there. And that's about it. So thank you. If anyone has any questions.
Just because I don't seem to be a host or with the ability to unmute folks, if you have a question, please put it down in the text chat and then we'll read it off from there. But Miles said nice, concise presentation.
Thanks. Thanks, Julie.
While maybe it might take a second for someone to type out a question, you mentioned something about just like map, it doesn't, or it changes it in place. There's a great website called doesitmutate.xyz, which goes through all the array methods and lets you know if it mutates the original array or not.
Great.
So I remember running into that with, I think, reverse. I was working with Vue.js and the reactivity system kept like throwing up and I couldn't figure out why until I realized that reverse does mutate. Oh yeah, thanks, Henry.
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of quirky things that can happen with array sort. I was even playing around with it earlier and found that if you were sorting an array where you have some array of strings where some letters are capitalized and others are not, the sort will take the capitalized letters and sort them first. I guess maybe they have a higher Unicode value and so on. So definitely like a lot of quirks in there to play around with for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, my little dog is saying hi in the corner.
Hi, dog.
Yeah, it's all that type coercion going on really messes with things. So are we sure, audience here? No questions? Should we move on to the next presentation? I do admit you covered it pretty thoroughly, so.
Thank you.
All right, well, if you have a follow-up question, let us know. And then we're gonna go on to Simon or Cher. It doesn't quite matter. Who wants to step up here?
I'm good if you want to.
All right, yeah, Simon, you can go ahead and start. Let me kill my video.
Start video, that always works. Okay, let's see if we can share a screen. Share. This one, which is briefly going to show the wrong thing. And
My God.
are we good? Yeah, this is what happens when you don't clean up your desktop for a while. Okay, so you can see that, Jason?
Yeah, I see it. I can hear you just fine.
Awesome. So yeah, this is a relatively short talk about hyperlog with Node.js and Redis. It's not a work presentation. I'm just lazy, so I stole their slide master. So first off, what is a hyperlog? I'm probably assuming that a lot of people haven't used one or come across one yet. And it's not to do with logging. It's actually an algorithm, and what it does is it does one thing and it does it reasonably well, but it's not perfect. And that's actually an advantage, and we'll look at why. And what it does is it solves what's called the count distinct problem. So imagine I'm like Twitter and I want to know how many different users have liked a post. Then we have like a set of user IDs that have all liked the post. And we have a count of how many things are in that set. If I am an ad agency or something, I want to know maybe how many different IP addresses have clicked on an ad on a web page. Same thing, we have a set of unique things and we want to count them. We are, for example, if we're Instagram, we might want to know how many unique images have been uploaded today. And now our unique things are quite big because they're images. And we again want to know how many distinctly different ones there were. And we'd normally use a mathematical set for that. And that's not always the best answer. So we're going to have a look at how we might use a hyperlog with Node for that. What we're going to do is look at a mechanism for doing traffic surveys. So imagine we wanted to count distinct vehicle license plates that went through an intersection in a day for some reason, like we're doing city road planning or something. And the obvious way that we might want to do that, if we were building this in, say, Node.js and it was running on some little device that sits at an intersection with a license plate reading camera, is we just used a JavaScript set because it's literally perfect for this application. It's built for recording unique collections of things without duplicates. So every time I add something to the set with my saw plate function there, it's going to get added to the set. And if that license plate has already been seen before, it's not going to get added a second time because the set doesn't allow for duplicates. And if I want to know how many different vehicles have passed by this intersection or this traffic light or whatever it is today, then I have a how many seen function there that just simply uses the size property on the set and says how many things did we put in the set today. And I can call those two functions. So I add a couple of license plates there at lines 7 and 8, and then I could add like maybe 500,000 other license plates. And then I can ask it, how many have you seen? And it's going to say 500,002. And this is perfect, right? There's no problem with this. We added 500,002 different things, and we've remembered that we counted 500,002 different things. This is exactly what we want to do. But there's actually a couple of problems with this perfect implementation. The first one is it doesn't scale. So if we went from 500,000 things to 5 million things or 10 million things, or each of those things was a megabyte long, then in order to know that we've not seen a license plate before, we have to remember all the license plates in the set. So the amount of storage or memory or database space or whatever we're going to back this with that we're using is unpredictable and can get out of control very, very quickly. And all of that is down to because we said we wanted an absolute right number. So we have to remember all of these things to get that number. The other problem with this in this case is these license plates can be associated with a person through the DMV. And we know where this process here is running. It's inside a traffic camera at a given location. So now we've associated a person with a vehicle with a location, when all we really wanted to do was count how many different vehicles pass through our intersection, just so we know, for example, whether to add another lane or whether to put a bike lane in there or whatever the plan is that we're looking at. So there's two problems with the set is storage can get out of control in order to get a perfect result. And we've got a potential privacy problem of we remember all of these license plates. So given those are our problems, what does a hyperloglog algorithm do for us and why might we use one? The first bit of good news is it has a very, very similar programming interface to a set. So it's very easy to drop into our code. And we'll look at that shortly. Here there's a count mechanism and there's a add mechanism. The huge benefit here with the hyperloglog algorithm is it's way more space efficient than a set. So every time I added a license plate to my set, I'm chewing through more and more memory, database storage, whatever it is, because I'm adding that unique thing that we have to remember to get that accurate count. A hyperloglog, instead of adding the thing, adds a hash of the thing. So it does a mathematical function on the thing, reduces it down to a much smaller size, and then compresses it, remembers it's seen something that matches that hash. Now, this is a benefit in terms of we save a lot of storage space or memory space, and we'll look at how much shortly. But it's also a downside because we'll get clashes. So license plates that hash to the same thing, we're going to get those ending up as a count of 1 rather than 3, 4, or however many different things it is. So in order to save a lot of memory and to solve our problem of having to constantly rescale this thing, we give up some accuracy. And in some cases, that's okay. So for like traffic planning, we want to know relative at each intersection how many vehicles or different vehicles pass through it. We don't need an exact count. Good enough is good enough. And then there's both a benefit and a trade-off here in that if we swapped our set for a hyperloglog algorithm, we can't get the things back out anymore because they've been hashed. So in the license plate case, this is beneficial because it solves our problem of tracking all of these license plates and having somebody potentially able to see them in the future. We're not tracking those license plates. We're essentially one-way hashing them like we would a password and dumping them in something. And the only thing we can do is then count that thing. So we don't have a situation now where someone can just say, oh, here are all the license plates that went through this intersection on this day, because you can't get them out anymore. That's also a downside for some use cases. So if you were doing something like credit card fraud detection or something, and you had like a set of transactions, you absolutely want to know the right, absolute accuracy. You want to know that, and you probably do want to get those values out again. So trade-offs, not always the best swap for a set, but quite often, like in this case with traffic management, it would be. The other trade-off here is that generally, hyperloglog's not something that's built into programming languages. So the set there, we just used the ES6 or the Node or JavaScript set. It's built in, we can just use it. If we wanted to persist that, it would be pretty easy. We just use any old database and have a primary value for the license plate and then count how many things are in there. Hyperloglog, a little bit more complicated, but again, the benefit is we save a lot of space. So we need an implementation of that. And there's several available, or you can make your own. I don't recommend that you make your own. This is just some math that I don't understand that I pulled off of Wikipedia that basically approximates how to make an add and a count function that's efficient storage-wise and gives you an approximation of how many things it's seen. So the long and the short answer is don't make your own, use a library or get some product that has this built in if you want to use this. And one of those products, there are several libraries available that do hyperlog logs, but one interesting product that has this built in and works with a bunch of languages, including Node and Python and pretty much any language you can think of, is the Redis key value data store. So that allows us to store against a key in a data store, which is in memory, so it's very fast, a hyperlog log count. So we can put things into the hyperlog log and we can count them, and it's in memory, it's very, very fast. And we can store several of them, hundreds of them, against different keys in the data store. The advantage of this is the hashing algorithm that it uses means that no matter how many license plates or whatever it is I want to put in there, I'm never going to go above 12K of storage or memory used. So this is good if you're doing something like a license plate reader or something where you can't predict how much data will come in, so you can't really scale for it. And you don't really need that perfectly accurate number anyway. You just need something that's good enough. So how does this then work with our code example? So if we took out the set, so we swap out perfect accuracy, but scalability problems and privacy problems for something that has reasonable accuracy, but no scalability and privacy problems. And we want to use Redis as the implementation of that because hyperlog isn't built into JavaScript. Then we have slightly more complicated code, but it's basically the same thing. So starting off, we first connect to Redis at the first couple of lines, and then we define a key name. So we're going to call that plates key. It's basically a key in the key value store where we're going to store our count. And then we still have two functions. So the store plate function now just calls a Redis command called pfadd, and that's going to add the license plate that we pass to it into the hyperlog log that's stored at a certain key in the data store. And the same as the set, it's either going to store it and increment the count by 1, or it's going to not store it and the count will stay the same as it is. And then our how many seen function works pretty much exactly the same as calling the set.size, except for we're going to call Redis command called pfcount, and that's going to say, hey, the hyperlog log that's stored at the key plates, how many things have you seen? Then from line 10 down, we pretty much have the same code. We are adding license plates there. Then I can add 500,000 other license plates. And then I say, oh, how many have you seen? So with the set, we knew every single time it was going to be 500,002 because the set is perfectly accurate, but has this problem with runaway storage for large data sets and has this other problem with privacy in this case. So the hyperlog log in this case, when I ask it how many have you seen, it comes back and it says 499,717. So it's in a reasonable ballpark of 500,002. And you'll find that if you use different hyperlog log implementations, you'll get trade-offs between how good that count is versus how much storage is used. So in our case, our 500,002 items that we've stored, we are trading off some accuracy in the count for the fact that we've used 12K of storage for this. And if I added another 10 million license plates, we'd be using 12K of storage. And if I added another 10 million license plates, we'd be using 12K of storage. So we don't have a runaway problem, but we do have an approximate answer rather than an accurate one. So where would approximate answers be useful? Largely in things where you're looking at trends or just comparing things with other things without needing to know exact values, basically, so relative values. So if you imagine if this was the code for a traffic camera sensor and it was at a given intersection and its key in Redis was something that identified that intersection, so maybe like 10th and Market, and then the next one would be like 9th and Market or whatever. If you put a load of these through a city and had them all reporting stuff back, they would all generate about 12K's worth of storage, no matter how many different vehicles went through them. Then you could use that information and without compromising people's privacy, because we don't know their license plates, it's all been hashed away. You can say how many were at each intersection. If you know where the cameras are located, you could do something like build a heat map out of that. So I have a video online where we actually look at in more detail building one of those heat maps with a bunch of camera-like objects and hyperlogs around San Francisco, and I'll post that in the chat afterwards and on Slack. So that was really all I had. So I mean, the takeaway really quickly is if you find yourself doing something where you have to count lots of things, and the lots of things might be a huge number of things, or they might be very big things, or a huge number of very big things, then you might want to consider swapping in a hyperlog for a set or a database table, traditional database table, in order to avoid runaway storage requirements and potentially to solve a privacy problem. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Did you see the 2 questions in the Q&A section?
I am just looking through. Can you control the size of a hash? By selecting which algorithm you use when you're choosing what hyperlog library to use, yeah, there's a bunch of different versions available, some of which are attached to storage engines. So like Redis is attached to a storage engine, uses Redis. And others are more essentially an in-memory drop-in replacement for the set. So I think Facebook has a library for this. So the accuracy in Redis, the standard error is like 0.81, so about 19% deviance, and it depends on what you're doing as to whether that's good enough for you or not, and the size of your data set. But quite often this is used for comparing purposes or, let's say, approximation. So that sort of error is generally okay. And other algorithms, you could drop in a hash or implement your own. So if you've got very specific requirements, you should probably look at something where the hashes are interchangeable. If you wanted to change the one in Redis, ultimately it's an open source product. You could basically get it and recompile it and change your own, but I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. I think.
All right, cool.
Oh,
cool.
and then sorry, to address question about privacy protection. The way that it works explicitly in Redis is you can add things to the hyperlog log and it will tell you how many things were changed or not. So to determine if something was in there, you would kind of need to brute force it by just keep adding things and seeing what changed. So it is semi-possible. It's just very, very hard to do it, and certainly a lot harder than a set where you just say, tell me what's in the set, and it's going to dump them all out.
Okay, cool. Any more questions out there? I'm so glad that it wasn't a typo of like hyperlog logs. I just thought it was like such a weird name for
yeah,
anything.
I don't know where the name came from. It was a French mathematician called Philippe something, surname begins with F, that created it, and that's why the Redis commands begin with PF, like after him.
All right, so it looks like we're gonna then move on to Cher's presentation. Thank you very much, Simon.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start my video here.
You can hear your birds too.
Oh yeah, there we have hawks in the background. A family of hawks. So, you're right. Let's see, share my screen. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah, looks good. Let's go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you. Let me see how we minimize the video. Oh, okay, there you go. So basically, I chose this talk today because I'm working on a side project that deals with Google Maps, and I'm using Angular as a framework. As far as you know, like I know everyone has already dealt with using Google Maps using either vanilla JavaScript or using it in any type of framework with Angular, React, or Vue. But in most cases, we would use a third-party API or third-party library to use that. But the best thing about that recently came out with Angular 9 at least is the Google Maps integration. So like, why not integrate it if like Google already manages Angular itself? So first thing I'd like to touch base with is how is it set up using vanilla JavaScript? So like basic steps So step one, you would create an HTML page, and basically you would add this div with an ID of map, and then you could style it any way you like. And then the next step is to add a map with a marker. So we would add the create a function called init map, and then you could set like a basic latitude or longitude of the location that you like, and then set it to zoom to 4. And then the most important thing here is to ensure that the script tag for your API key that calls the Google Maps API, and embed your API key there as well, which I'll go over with later. And then, as I said, it is good to also use it with vanilla JavaScript, but what if you have to use it using a framework such as Angular? So which we'll go over right now. So, okay, before we go over that, so with vanilla JavaScript, this is what it would look like based on the latitude and longitude that we set up. Over here is we have 25, -25 and 131, and that lands us to Australia. So that's how it will look like. And recently, Google Maps has like a lot of restrictions on how you would use the API key. Since this is only on localhost, you would have this type of cover that says for development purposes only, but it doesn't mean it does not work. So let's just go over how this can be implemented using Angular. So the very first step is once you are on your project, you install the Angular plugin into your app using install Angular Google Maps. And then once you've done that, you're going to go to your app.module.ts file and ensure you import this into your library, import Google Maps module, and then embedding it there and ensuring that it is also imported as a service. So like here in the module, and then like as you do it also on the vanilla JavaScript, you have to embed the script tag. In this case, you have to go to the root of your app, which is the index.html file, and also embedding your API key there as well. And once you've done that, you're going to go to whichever HTML file you want to add it to. For basic steps, we could just go to app.component.html, and then you would embed this HTML code here. So just going to go through a quick demo here real quick, show you how that looks like and see how the magic is. And then it's going to go ahead and add that over here. And run the code. Hard enter a little slow right now. Code here, and this is how it would look like on like an Angular level. So what does is it would eliminate the process of like in vanilla JavaScript that you have to embed. Let me just go back real quick, like embed all of these, and then add this additional steps. And but with the Angular way, if you're using a framework such as this, you could just basically install the plugin, embed the script tag with your API key, and then just simply calling this HTML code here, Google-map. And then that does pretty much does the magic for you. So that's the basic step of it. But if you want to use other like functionality, such as like getting your current location, or like directions are adding multiple map markers on it. So there's additional steps for that. So let me just show you here, just for time purposes. So in your app component, you could add a zoom of 12 or whichever you want to zoom your mount in and out to. The center, which is like it would grab your location. And then these are just additional steps. If you don't want the user to zoom, just set it to false. You don't want them to scroll around, set it to false as well. And then the magic here is getting your geolocation, which is your current position. So whenever the app runs, or whether it's a web app or a mobile application, it would grab your current location, and then it would set it as that map marker. Okay. And as you can see here too, and then other option is click event. You could click around, and then it would like console it for you. Then like this is what I was mentioning earlier. If you have multiple markers, you could like set it over here, and then you could run the loop of markers using an ng-for loop if you're familiar with that. So, all right. So that's, I mentioned, is obtaining a key by going into the Google Maps API, and I could show you that here. So the Google documentation is pretty extensive, but like most of it are straight to the point if you read it well enough. So it walks you through the steps of adding or getting an API key, and then you can log into your Google Cloud Platform console, which looks like this. Let me see if I could grab that real quick. So once you're there in your console, you could select the project that you like, and then under credentials, usually the API key is not included here yet, and what you're going to have to click on create credentials, and once you click on that, it would implement the API key here for you, and then you can have it here. And then basically you can just hit copy and then inject that into the script tag of your HTML, as mentioned here, where you have API key equal to that, and then just place it there. And go back here. And Angular also has their own API documentation, which is pretty informative if you want to know more information about that. Basically goes through the same steps that I did, is running, installing the Angular Maps API or plugin, and it gives you a lot of information on how to set that up depending on what your purpose is. Okay, and that's about it. So if you have questions, you can hit me up on LinkedIn or reach me on GitHub as well. All right.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Of course, there's also a couple of questions in the Q&A tab, the bottom two.
Let's see. Can you use an Npm package? You could definitely use it. The only, some of the issues for that is it's not maintained by Google. If the owner of that Npm package does not maintain it, and then you're going to have to find a way to implement another Google Maps API. With the Angular version, Google updates it itself, so you wouldn't have any real issues on updating the library or have any conflicts with it. Okay.
Oh, dang, I'm sorry. I had all that typing. I did not mute.
Oh, sorry. Hello. Okay. And then second question is, did I understand you to say in the beginning that prior to some release, you had to use the third party to use Google Maps with Angular, but now there is a native implementation? Oh, I'm not 100% sure what that question is. Correct me if I'm wrong. So are you asking if there is a mobile version of it as well, or? I think that question is from
Jed, if you could maybe expand on that in the chat. I think that they didn't realize that, yeah, Google Maps does have this native implementation of the Maps API. Like before, it used to be third party, and then I guess I didn't
Yeah.
realize going into the meetup tonight that that's what the case is.
Hmm. Yeah, they have their own built-in now, so they both manage the Angular CLI and also manage the Google Maps portion of it. So it makes more sense since it's owned by the same company for them to manage it rather than using a third-party plugin where, for example, like that person does not manage it anymore, and then there's like going to be continuous conflict with it, which is harder in the case.
All right, so that's it for Q&A. Does anyone else have any? Oh wait, there one more popped up in here. Oh, okay. They thought you said that some prior release Angular you had to use a third-party library. Yeah, that was the point of her talk tonight, is that you no longer have to use one. All right. Any other questions in either in the chat or in the Q&A you want to put in here? All right, I think that's it. Real quick, Michael Roberts, if you could come in and reset Julie Knowles as a panelist, that'd be great. Cher, thank you very much.
Oh yeah, thank you.
As much as like some people avoid Angular because it's heavy, that's something that's I think is actually pretty cool since like they have domain over both of those, you know, Angular and Google Maps. It kind of makes sense. And with the way things are going these days, with the way you can pick and choose which parts of a script come in, like with tree shaking and destructuring, it's kind of like almost like why not? Especially if you have the resources of Google. Okay, so I see Julie is now back in as a panelist. Why don't you get your screen going and then you can go ahead and take it away. Hey.
Okay, let me share my screen. And there, can you see my screen?
I definitely can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Julie Knowles, and I am a UI software engineer over at Teradata here locally. We work on the Angular stack, doing front-end UIs for the company. And today I want to talk about your blog on Jamstack. So Jamstack, what is it? Is it yummy? It sounds good. I don't know about everybody else, but I love jam. So exactly what is the Jamstack? In short, it stands for the JavaScript APIs and markup. But what is it really? So it's a newer way of building websites and that allow you to deliver better performance, higher security, lower cost of scaling, and a better experience. They're pre-rendered sites, and so they can be written using Markdown and enhanced with JavaScript, and then use all the capabilities of the browsers and services available via APIs without the need to depend on a web server. So you pre-render and you cache all the views, you cache as many API calls as you can, and you don't serve from your own server. That's a basic idea of what the Jamstack is. According to Aaron Frost, who's well known in the Angular area, no amount of optimization in your front-end app can provide as much increase in performance for your end user as a Jamstack will. So it doesn't matter how much you try to optimize your front end, you can't do as much as utilizing the Jamstack can help you out with. So again, we use Angular, and that's my knowledge. And so Angular on Jamstack, how can you do that? And the answer is Scully. And Scully is a static site generator that was written by a company called Hero Devs that Aaron Frost is one of the developers for that team and one of the big team members. And Scully is the best static site generator for Angular projects looking to embrace a Jamstack. They released it back in December, and their goal, one of their goals was to make it as easy as, as possible to use. They want to provide all the same goals as Jamstack does. They want to do it for all Angular projects. They wanted to make it easy to use. They wanted it to support Markdown, and they also wanted to provide a plugin system and an ecosystem. And so now what happens now? So how do you create your blog on Jamstack? The prerequisites are, in order to use Scully, you need either an existing Angular application or you can create a new one. If you're doing a blog, like my blog is really outdated, and so eventually I want to start it back up. So I played around with starting one new, but so in order to start one new, if you don't have Angular installed, and if you haven't ever used Angular before, it's as simple as doing an npm install on it globally at angular-CLI. And then to create the actual Angular application, it's as easy as saying ng new my blog, or whatever you want to call your application. And then you cd into the directory. And if you do an ng serve -- open, you get this. And this is actually, so this is an application fully functioning. You can change all of the stuff here, and you've got your first Angular application. So once you have that, you need to install Scully. There's some tongue twisters in there. So to install Scully, you do an ng add at scully.io/init, and that does all the work of installing Scully. And then you generate the blog by doing an ng generate at scully.io/init:blog. And that creates a default blog post to start off with. That's actually a .md file for the Markdown. And you can add as many additional posts as you want by doing an ng generate at scully.io/init:post -- name = next post, or whatever you want to call it. That's actually the title of the post. And then you can add the Markdown to the file next -post, or whatever it's called, located in the blog directory. And then the other thing you need to do is the app component HTML, which is what was showing. This is the data that's in the app component.html. Instead of having that, you can replace it with something simple like this, which is just an h1 tag, a footer tag, and the router outlet, which is Angular's way of controlling the pages. And then if you do an ng build &&npm run Scully, that generates both a Angular site and a static website. And then if you do npm run Scully serve, again, there are two different sites created. There's an Angular site and there's a static site. And so there are two localhost ports that you can visit depending on what you want to see. If you visit the 1668, which is a static site, then you'll see this. And that's the localhost 1668. What I did here is I actually took a screenshot of the blog post. So this right here is just the Markdown from the blog. So your Markdown would show up here. And since it's unpublished, it's not fully served yet. That's why there's this huge long slug right now. But eventually you would see your Markdown content right there. And that's basically it. I just want to give a quick rundown. There are some great resources that I've included here, including I have a GitHub started because again, I do need to get my own personal blog back up and running. So I do have a skeleton on GitHub that I've provided here. So anyway, down and dirty, any questions?
I really like that approach. One of the little icons you showed at the beginning of your talk, the Hugo one, I've been wanting to experiment, even though it's not JavaScript.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I'm not seeing anything show up in Q&A or the chat. Just make sure, yeah, you share those links in our SDJS Slack, and that'd be great.
Yep.
All right, so that is all four of our speakers, Allison, Cher, Simon, and Julie. Thank you very much for contributing. If you are thinking of any sort of talk, please reach out to any of the organizers on our Slack. So that would be me at Jason Land, at Michael Roberts would be at Me Roberts. Those are just the two Twitter handles. Julie counts. Julie, is it just at Julie Knowles?
My Twitter is at Julie_M_Knowles.
No, I meant on our Slack.
Oh, yes. Julie should work.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, approach one of the organizers or board members, and we can get you into doing a talk for us one of these months. That'd be great. So, you know, already get started thinking about next month. So now, end of the evening, we still haven't really nailed down a great methodology for this, but what I would like to do is, if you are, let's see, can Q&As be saved? Because I can see that the chat can be saved. Doesn't look like it. All right, if you are looking for work, or you are looking to hire, we want to help facilitate this. Usually we'd have each group stand up. Oh, thank you, Miles. He says QA is saved automatically. We would have each group stand up, you know, I'm looking to be hired. I'm a front-end dev who's very experienced in this and that, looking for this type of job. And then people on behalf of companies could say, we're looking to hire a lot of back-end folks right now. We're looking for like a mid-tier. We exist in this sort of space, like what our industry is. Kind of like a quick little sales pitch. Unfortunately, that doesn't, also since I don't seem to have like the panelist power on my account, what we're going to do is in the chat, let's have, preface it with like looking for work or looking to hire, and then just briefly describe your like the position or the type of work you're looking for if you are looking to get hired, and just briefly describe like put your company URL and a brief description of the position. We'll save the chat and we will repost these on the jobs section of our SDJS Slack. So that's hashtag jobs. And I think that'll do for now until maybe we start setting up like a little Google Sheets type of thing. I think we'll try that out next month. So yeah, if anyone is looking to get hired, just I'll do like a little fake one for myself. Let's see, for hire, Jason Land, front end engineer, lots of experience in the best JavaScript framework. So something like that. And then for companies looking to hire back-end, front-end, company.com, we do stuff that helps people. So the other example, oh, it's kind of hard to read that. I can't seem to space them out or go back and edit. So those are like the two templates we're going to work with here. If you are maybe like thinking of it and then we close down the Zoom too soon, just please remember in the hash job section of our Slack, you can go ahead and always post whether you're looking to hire or you're looking to be hired. We just want to help you make that happen. Like 4 out of 5 of the last jobs that I've been in have been through STJS. So we want to make that get that sort of numbers going for you. We're here for education, but we're also here for networking and for, you know, career benefits as well. So other than that, I think that is it for tonight. Thank you everyone for coming out. I know it's a lot easier. You don't have to put on pants if you don't want to. But still, it's taking time to sit down in front of the computer for even more each day. But I'm really glad you're all interested in the talks that we had. Whatever you, thanks, Miles. Miles has confirmed no pants. The talks we had here today, the speakers, the topics, and our community in general. So I'm going to leave the room open for a little bit. If people want to drop other questions in Q&A about general JavaScript stuff or JavaScript stuff or job hunting or career-based types of things, go ahead. I'm going to do my best to answer them, and I'll call out Michael Roberts if he's able to help out as well, if it's kind of beyond my experience. And then Allison, I notice you're still on. If you want, you can definitely respect your time zone and get going. But thank you for sticking around for the whole meetup.
What did you need me for, Jason?
Oh, I didn't really truly invoke your name. I was just saying, like, I was open.
I heard it. So
I was saying that if there's Q&A and it's like beyond my knowledge, like we need a true senior engineer here. You know, we can rely on you wherever my niche of view fails to suffice.
Yeah, I mean it is Vue, so there's that. Are we doing a Q&A then, or where are we at? Are we closing down?
We just ended all the talks and I put it out there. Way to keep up with the meetup on YouTube, but I put it out there that
I tried to be as quick
if people
as I
wanted
could.
to get hired or hire someone, I gave them a format to use. We're not seeing anything right now, so I figured it's just one of those slower nights, and then I wanted to have Q&A for anything, since a lot of times we would, you know, bunch up before and after the meetup to answer questions. But it seems like it's also quiet for that one too. So, you know, if that's the case, just remember that on our Slack, and I'll type out the invite link one more time, San Diego Heroku.com. That's an auto invite link. So when you go to that link I just posted to the chat, just sign up with your email and you'll get invited in automatically. You don't have to wait for anyone to let you in, basically. No gatekeepers.
Sweet. Hey, Miles, what's up?
I think, yeah, we can go ahead. One thing I wanted to mention, although lots of folks have left, is that SendLane, a company that I just started working for, is looking for back-end engineers who also understand a little bit of the front end, but you're mostly going to be a back end. It's not quite a full stack position, and it's going to be they're an email delivery automation service, and it's going to be a Laravel backend. So if you're comfortable with JavaScript on the front end, you know some Laravel on the back end, go ahead and message me on the Slack, and I'll see what we can do. Or not see what we can do. I'll get your resume in on our pile. if you make it worth my while.
What's up, Gareth? Good to see you. Thanks everybody for coming out. I'm gonna stop the interwebs. So those of you on YouTube's, it's been great.